today's topic, we're going a little bit backwards because we're going back to one variable data, okay? And this is all about describing data. And when I'm saying describing data, we're talking about histograms, okay? So if I draw a histogram and it looks something like this, histogram, something like that. We need to be able to describe that data, okay? Now, you can describe it in lots of different ways. What sort of descriptions? I need you guys to actually speak up today. What sort of descriptions could you give to this data? What sort of things could we talk about with this data? It might not be grouped, because it might be like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16, for example. All right, what could we do? We could describe an outlier. What else could we describe? So the mode, we could talk about what the mode is. So an outlier, mode. What else? Median. What else? Mean. It's a bit hard to work out the mean, but yes, you could. No, we probably wouldn't go to interquartile range, but we would look at range. Okay, so we could describe range. What else could you describe in terms of what this looks like? Like not with the words we've talked about, just what does this data look like? Could you say something about that chunk of data? Is there anything specific you could describe it as? No. If I cut it down the middle at 6, symmetrical, okay? So you could say that the main portion of the data is symmetrical. What else could you say? What could you describe as that main section and the outlier? What's in the middle there? There's a gap, okay? There's nothing there, is there? All right? So we talk about describing data, and you need to be able to describe this data, and it's worth 4 marks, okay? So usually 4 marks, not always, but usually. So if you're describing data, you use dot points. I hate paragraphs, okay? The reason why I don't like paragraphs in this is that you say, you know how you have a paragraph and you should have a topic sentence, and then you should describe it, and then you should make a conclusion. What ends up happening is you guys actually do talk about one thing, but you talk about it 3 times, and you're expecting to get 3 marks, okay? By using a dot point for each thing, you can get all 4 marks. So you say there's an outlier at 16. The main cluster of data is symmetrical. The mode is 6. And the range is 12. 4 different things. You don't need to do, all your wordy stuff, okay? 4 different things, 4 separate marks, okay? So use dot points, a point for each mark. Do not repeat yourself. Right? Once you've done that, this ends up being pretty easy. But we talk about a couple of different things we need to talk about. So make sure you include one point about each of the following. The first one is called the location. The location talks about, you even need to talk about the mean or the median. Okay, so the middle of the data. So one or the other is fine. The second one is the spread. So you should always talk about the range of the data. And if you want to, you could work out the interquartile range, but it's a bit hard to work it out. Okay, so range is a lot easier. The last one is the shape. So in this one, you talk about the mode, and almost everyone picks up the mode because it's the easiest one to look at. All right. You want to talk about outliers. You can talk about whether it's got symmetry. clusters of data or gaps in the data. Now, just be careful because a lot of the time people only stick with shape. So they tell you the mode, they tell you an outlier, they tell you that it's got symmetry and that there's a gap. And if you do that, you're not going to get full marks because you need to show a range of different things. So one of each. So location, so maybe you'd find the mean. Like median's probably easier. Find the median, find the range, talk about the outlier and the mode. That's 4 different points. Okay, so you need to have a range of them. And that's it. A lot of people lose marks on these questions though, just because they just don't think about what to say and it confuses them. All right? Are there any questions? That is the end of data.